This Minnesota Vikings team is very dangerous. I'm ready to go all in on them right now, and it's only May, and I'm just like, how are more people not talking about them? This was a team that 2 years ago won 14 games, and yes, I understand last year was a little bit of a bump in the road, but I think with all things considered, when I look at this roster and look at some of the additions that they made, I'm like, this team can be right back into Super Bowl contention like they were 2 years ago, and I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that. This is a Super Bowl roster. Yes, the division's tough. The conference is tough. You need a lot of these question marks when it comes to this team to really be answered for you in order for the Minnesota Vikings to be a true Super Bowl contender. But I don't think it's necessarily out of the realm of possibility that these question marks can turn into really green flags for this team. And I think the first big question mark that is really glaring for this team right now is obviously at the quarterback position. Last year, the quarterback play was maybe the worst in the NFL, and I'm not taking a shot at J.J. McCarthy because I still do believe he is a guy that can turn it around, but I think he's in a really tough position right now because a lot of the times when you are a rookie quarterback or a second-year quarterback, the team around you, when you are a high draft pick, is also going to probably be pretty rough. And so you're building as the team builds. Well, he was put into a situation where you are basically inheriting a Super Bowl roster, and you've got to go be that guy from day one. And if you're not that guy from day one, it's going to get really loud and changes are going to need to be made. So first of all, I want to put that on the record. I'm not giving up on J.J. McCarthy, but he's in a tough position because, like I mentioned, this is a Super Bowl roster. And if the quarterback play is not at least above average, you're really like, man, you're wasting all of these beautiful years of Justin Jefferson on this nice contract, of Jordan Addison, of Brian Flores still being your defensive coordinator, of Kevin O'Connell being one of the best offensive minds. Like, these windows, they don't last long. And so you need to optimize that to the best of your ability. So obviously, the Vikings went out and got Kyler Murray this offseason, former number 1 overall pick. Him and the Cardinals, it just seemed like he needed a new change of scenery, and I'm excited for Minnesota for him, but you need this question mark to be answered if you're the Minnesota Vikings, and that is, can the quarterback play be better? Because last year was just truly so bad, and I'm very optimistic that it will be a lot better. I've been a big Kyler supporter for most of his career. I feel like this is a guy that when he's playing his best brand of football, he's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Now, he hasn't played that brand of football in, maybe a year or two. There's been a lot of injuries. There's been a lot of inconsistency. There was a lot of change in Arizona in terms of the weapons. Now he's going to go into a Minnesota offense that just added Juwan Jennings, and I think he probably rounds out the best receiving core in the NFL. Whether you like it or not, Justin Jefferson is probably the best receiver in the NFL. I don't think that's very much of a hot take right now. Jordan Addison, in my opinion, is a top 5 number 2 receiver in the NFL. I think Juwan Jennings being a number 3 receiver is like such a slam dunk. I think he's easily the best number 3 receiver in the NFL. I don't think I'm missing anyone, but like this guy, I think he could give you legit wide receiver 1 reps, and we saw him really fill into the 49ers offense and kind of become that number 1 wide receiver for a few weeks with all of the injuries that San Francisco had in that offense. But I'm really excited about those 3 guys for Kyler Murray. Then you add in TJ Hawkinson, who's been a very, very productive tight end for the majority of his career. You've got a nice 1-2 punch, Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones in the backfield. And I think really what puts everything together is the fact that Kevin O'Connell has been one of the most brilliant offensive minds in the NFL for a while now. I mean, he had this Vikings team with Sam Darnold 2 years ago as a legitimate Super Bowl contender. He was always very successful with Kirk Cousins. He's really been able to turn quarterbacks that I would say their ceilings would have been a lot lower on other teams. He's been able to raise their level of play, and he's been able to consistently do it. And I think maybe J.J. McCarthy has been the only quarterback where we haven't been able to see that sustained level of success. But I think with a guy like Kyler Murray, who is similar to Kirk Cousins or Sam Darnold, because he's had a lot of experience in the NFL, it hasn't been like their first ever trial run, KOC is going to be able to take Kyler Murray, the talents that he has, and I really believe that he's going to be able to make him into one of the most productive quarterbacks in the NFL. I'm really excited about this relationship between KOC and between Kyler, and I just feel like everybody's jumped off the Kyler ship, but he led them to the playoffs a few years ago. He played top 5, maybe top 10 football for a few seasons early on in his career, and I think there was just a lot of turnaround. There was a lot of chaos, the torn ACL, the new acquisitions in that receiver room that weren't necessarily amazing, and then the injuries last year. I think Kyler Murray is going to be a quarterback that significantly rises, and I just feel like this roster is too talented to not compete for a Super Bowl, in my opinion. I went through the offense, but the defense is very solid as well, and Brian Flores has always done a tremendous job of having this defense tuned up and ready to go. I've said, I think for 2 years now, that I just feel like Minnesota, every year that Brian Flores does not become a head coach, they're like pumping their fist, like, Brian, we would love for you to go be a head coach because you've done such an amazing job. But in the back of their heads, they're like, no, this is amazing that we get to keep Brian Flores because he's done such a tremendous job with this defense over the last few seasons. So first of all, I'm excited for Kyler Murray. I'm excited to see how this offense can come together. I think this is a wildly talented roster, but you look at this division. I mean, it's no slouch of a division. Obviously, the Bears were, in terms of record-wise, 2 years ago, they were the worst team in the division. You had the Lions, who won 15 games. You had the Vikings, who won 14 games. And you had the Green Bay Packers, who won 11 games. All 3 of those teams were playoff teams. Then you skip forward to last year, and the Bears won the division. The Lions were subpar considering they were the number 1 seed in the NFC the year before. And you looked at the Vikings, they obviously took a big step back. I feel like the Packers, that's not a season they want to be smiling at because they choked that huge game in the playoffs to the Packers. Things can change very, very quickly in this division, and all 4 of these teams, in my opinion, are legit contenders. I mean, I look at Chicago, I think they're going to take another step forward. Detroit, they are not going to stay at that subpar level. They will bounce back in a big time way. I think Green Bay is, as long as everybody can stay healthy, they're a legit contender. And I think Minnesota is the one team that it's like everybody's just forgotten about. But I can't help but think Kevin O'Connell's not going to have his team ready to go because he absolutely will. And I look at the schedule. They just came out yesterday. Green Bay week 1 at home, very winnable game. I think you've got to win that game at home. On the road against Chicago, that could be a tough one. I think they probably lose that one. Tampa Bay on the road, I'll give them a win there. Miami at home, I'd give them a win there. That's 3-1. New Orleans on the road, I'd give them a win there as well. That could be a tough one. I think New Orleans has got some good upside this coming year, but I'll give them 4-1. Indianapolis at home after the bye week, 5-1. They lose to Detroit. They lose to Buffalo. I think they are, if my math is right, 5-3 at this point. Maybe a little bit of a skid. People might get concerned they lose 3 in a row. I'm at 5-4. They bounce back. They beat San Fran. They beat Atlanta. They beat Carolina. They're 8-4. Got to close it strong to get into the playoffs. I think they beat New England on the road. They are 9-4. They end up doing their thing against Detroit, Washington, New York, Chicago. I mean, I think they could win out, honestly. I think they can get really hot in the second half of the schedule. Maybe they lose to New England. Maybe Detroit sneaks out a win. Washington's going to be a lot better. Not an easy schedule because the NFC North is so good, but I think this team's ceiling, they can win 13, 12 games next year. They can legitimately be a Super Bowl contender, but it all comes down to the quarterback play. Can Kyler Murray be that guy? Can he be the next protege for Kevin O'Connell and the next guy that really takes this offense to the next level? I think they can. I'm excited for the Minnesota Vikings. It's only May. We've got to wait a long time for football, but when the schedule comes out, we've got to get excited when we can. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Caden Kubler. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you guys next time.